Hey everybody. So yeah, yesterday I got the light shadows where it could cast shadows or not cast shadows. And then today or last night I got the code working to be able to control shadow casting from the um, for the meshes. So that's pretty cool. And here's a good example where I have a light sitting up here at the top and it is sitting at the Y position of 1. And then I have this red item little cube sitting at 0, and then I have this blue plane sort of thing, another cube, but it's really long and thin, sitting at 0 as well. And so, as you can see right now, what's happening is the red basic material is blocking, it's causing shadowing on the blue. Probably be kind of neat to move the camera up one and see what. So see, you can see it kind of more in a 3D. But you can see since it's a basic material, you don't really get the edges and all that stuff. Um, it'd probably be fun to set that. Today's Sunday, so I can be a little. I'm usually a little do things a little differently. So we'll turn that to a Fong. So now you can see the edges and stuff, and you can see that the black sides or the sides look black now, even though it's red. So I'm going to change that to Fong or basic so you can just see everything a little better. I think you can see things better. Anyways, so I'm going to move my camera back down to 0.5. I'm actually looking forward. I believe later this week I'll be updating it to where the camera can look at locations. Right now, it only looks straight ahead no matter where you move it. So that'll be good to get that working. But anyway, so back to what I accomplished last night. Um, if Just to show you, so basically this red basic material, um, I am going to turn the shadow casting off. So it can, since it's basic, it can't receive shadows. It can only project shadows. So I'm going to change that off, and so you can see now it does not cast shadows, and I show the blue without any shadows on it. Also, I can alternatively, I can go to the blue Fong material, which is a zero point 0.1 high, 15 wide, and 15 deep, and I can turn off cast shadows, which will have no effect because it's not actually casting any shadows. But I could also turn off receive shadows, and now it's back to blue. So that's pretty cool. It kind of shows how things work, um, and all of that. And Let's see. I could also conversely, just to understand how ThreeJS works, I could change this to a normal material and it still works. It just doesn't have coloring. Um, so let's go ahead and change that back to basic. And that's where we're at. Okay, so there was not a whole lot of code um, for to make this happen. Everything just worked nice and smooth as you would expect, because we've already kind of been down this road a few times. So basically, in the mesh interface, I add a cast shadow and receive shadow attributes, uh, and then in the um, let's go to let's do the HTML first. That's not how I coded it. The next thing I coded was this because when I changed the interface, things broke, and this is what broke actually. So first thing I did was import the mat checkbox module because we needed checkboxes for that, and then I also did another import. I guess that's a big deal. I saw a big article this week on LinkedIn and from that came from the NG talking about the double import, and I guess this is emotionally jarring for some people, including myself. It's so annoying. I wish, honestly, instead of having this, I wish they'd have called this something else, instead of imports, um, but like uses or something like that. Contains. I don't know. There's a million synonyms for imports, so I kind of wish they'd use something different, so that these two wouldn't be the same. But whatever. I mean, it really isn't that big of a deal. But apparently there are changes coming so that that double import doesn't happen anymore. And then it broke, and so we had to add the cast shadows, uh, the two default values. So by default, I'm setting the shadow casting and shadow receiving to true. And then down in the subscriptions, it's subscribing and it's updating. It's just pulling the shadows and the mesh item and setting them to whatever's in the form. And it happens whenever you change something, this will update, and then this update mesh gets called, which I do not believe that is necessary. I call it, I mean, that's really more there just for mental um, sanity purposes. And then in the form, we'll add the cast shadow and receive shadow. So that was the next step. It all just sort of blindly make these changes and it all works. It's pretty cool. And so now in the HTML, just add a couple of things. I added the color because it didn't have a label over here, this color label, and then I added the two checkboxes. You can't really see both checkboxes here. Well, you can't at all see both checkboxes there. But for the blue, since it's a Fong, you can see them both. So, and you see that this receive shadows only works for Fongs because, as far as I could tell, the only material that receives shadows, or at least that we've implemented, are Fongs. Um, I don't know of any other materials other than the basic and Fong and normal, but they, there probably are. Anyways, in ThreeJS, it was pretty minor changes. Um, Basically, I made it so we didn't have to have these checkboxes anymore. Just say if it exists, which it always exists, but since it can technically be an undefined, we have to add that code there. And then I added, removed the little question marks, the Elvis operators there, and then I added these two cast shadows, and everything works. It was super simple. It's kind of like one of those things. Like in the end, and when I first started, and we had to build it out for the scene, um, it was like just very frenetic and intense. But then, and then when we did the lights, it was just a little weird, but it was fairly straightforward. Um, and so let's see, let's go do that one. Um, and then meshes, it was super simple. Could Anybody could have done it in their sleep. It would be perfect task for a new junior developer that's coming in, intern or something like that, so that they can sort of explore and understand. But that's about it. It's pretty simple. I like I said, as we do more of these things, it's nice because they're getting simpler and simpler, and then hopefully at some point as we move through and make changes, like this is the end of the shadow stuff. So next, I think the next thing I'll probably work on is the camera and getting that look at, adding like a new field, which is look at, which I think is a new kind of field because it actually has two values. I think everything else we have done this for. Well, no. So yeah, no. I guess there's actually three values. I guess it is just like position. So we'll say look at x equals 0, y equals 0, z equals 0, or whatever. So you could tell where to point the camera. And then after that, I think we'll have some pretty intense weirdness in animations, so that the you we need to. I'll convert the way the animations this. Um, I'll convert the way the animations work because right now they're sort of like a. It's based on how often the screen updates is. So the animation executes based on screen updates, but it really needs to be more time orientated. So like um, something should move a certain amount for every amount of time, not for every time that the screen updates. Um, and I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna stop that. So that's going to be interesting because that is an actual architectural change that we made. We just sort of inherited the way it works right now from the initial build out, the copy and paste from the example code. And this is sort of the last thing that kind of really needs to get sort of defined. And then as soon as that is done, I want to add like an export import functionality so that I don't have to keep rebuilding all these things. I'll be able to build something cool and then like copy, hold it, maybe save it to a file or something, and then bring it back in and paste it into a text area or something, so that I can build upon things I've already built on. And that, like I said, I think the only thing that's really holding that back is animations. I might probably actually before I do that, I'll probably in the lights I would like to add like the ability to mark something that makes that ties that create automatically creates a light, um, a light mesh. Because right now when you create a light, like let's say I create a new light, let me collapse this. I create a new light, and then let's say I say, oh, it's at Y position of 1, and so you see how much brighter it just got, and then X position of 1, and you see how there's a light there, but you can't really see it, and you can't see it until I add a new mesh, and then I say add mesh, and I say let me open this guy up, and he is going to be a sphere, and he's sitting at 1 and 1, and it's a radius of 0.1, and it's a basic, and it is white because that's the color of the light. And that should be something that we should be able to automate. I mean, I should be able to just push a button over there and it just automatically built that. Um, that is going to be much harder than it sounds because let me turn off the shadows. That's weird. Oh, because it's not casting a shadow in the light. Let me tell it not to project the light. So that's pretty cool. But it would be nice to have this. I mean, this is going to be harder than it sounds because right now the way meshes and lights are created, they expect a form to exist, and things just break if it doesn't have a form. So, like, if you create one from lights, that means I'm gonna have to figure out some way to get the forms that form attached and the sub and the subscriptions set up. But it's going to be easier to do that in the context of a simple thing like just adding a basic mesh. Um, Trying to get that figured out in the context of a full-blown import and export is going to be a lot tougher. So I would rather slay that dragon in this simpler context early on. But so I'm about 4 minutes over, which is not too bad for a Sunday record. So happy coding, everybody. Bye.